Beautiful friends, I hope you're all doing so incredibly well. I am so stinking excited for this. I've been waiting for this for years. I cannot believe that I have never read Narnia. It was one of my absolute favorite movies growing up, and I did have the book when I was younger. My mom bought it for me from Scholastic Book Fair. I wasn't very interested in reading for a while when I was younger, and I think I got rid of it, which makes me really sad, but I have a really cool like vintage copy from 1970. So this is the copy that I will be reading from. I'm so excited. I love C.S. Lewis. I haven't read any of his fiction books, but I have read Mere Christianity, which is incredible, and the Screwtape Letters, which is also incredible. I loved both of those so much, and like I said, I love the Narnia movie with my entire heart, so I'm so excited to actually be reading the book, and I'll be reading it with my book club, so my friends Kaya, Leanna, and Nadine, and I'm just so excited for this, and it's less than 200 pages, so I'm hoping that I will finish it fairly quickly. I have the night to myself tonight because Steven is at D&D, so I have all night to read to myself. I just finished my Bible study, so I'm ready to just relax and let my brain travel to Narnia for a while. I also have my laptop up right there and our projector hooked up right there. I'm gonna pull the screen down and have some Narnia ambiance so I get all of the good feels from it, and I just really need a good, happy story right now because, as Anne Shirley would say, I have been in the depths of despair for the last few months. Like really bad. Like some of the worst anxiety I've ever had in my entire life. I'm not even gonna get into it, but say a prayer for your girl because I am just now crawling out of that hole. But thankfully, Jesus has been with me every step of the way, and I'm healing and I'm on my way out, and it's all good. But I wanted to show you guys too my shirt. I don't know if you can see it. It says redeemed. Isn't that beautiful? And then the back. It's so cool, right? I can't remember the name of the place that I got it, but I'll try to link it down below if I can remember. I love it so much. I got it in a big, large, and it's cotton. I'm wearing this beautiful cross necklace that I bought for myself for Christmas. I'll put the Instagram page on the screen, and I'm not much of a silver girly. I love this necklace so much. I pretty much never take it off. But so yeah, I'm decked out in my Jesus gear right now, and I'm just so excited to read a good Jesus story. I'm so excited. I will give you guys updates over the next few days as I start and finish this beauty. So I quickly wanted to show you guys, I'm so sorry this lighting is horrible, but we're feeling cozy. Well, first of all, I've got my FABLEWOOD Goods mug. She'll always be linked below with my code. But I wanted to show you guys the bookmark and the art that I got for Narnia, because with my book club, what we do is one of us will pick a book, and then whoever picks the book will create or buy goodies for everybody that kind of go along with it. Last year, we read my favorite book, tied with Redeeming Love, but it's Once Upon a Wardrobe, which is kind of ironic because now I'm reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's kind of related, but anyway. So for that, I picked that book, and then I crocheted Kaya and Nadine snoods, like crochet hoodies, and they're so stinking cute. But we've since added Leanna to our book club, and she created us some Narnia goodies. I wanted to show you guys this, but this is the Narnia bookmark that she made for us. Isn't it so beautiful? And then she also got us these prints, and it is just so stunning. I love it so much. But it says, "I have come home at last. This is my real country. I belong here. Come further up, come further in." Without further ado, let's get into Narnia! Oh, so excited. is the next day and I love this book so much already. I love it. I have made it 73 pages in. I'm on chapter 8 when they are with the beavers, and I'm just, you know, this is definitely a book that I could read all in one sitting if I had the time. Like, it is just, it's so good. So one of the things that I'm really loving about it, and this is something that I feel like maybe modern authors don't do as much, is that so much has been explained in such a short amount of time. And I feel like a lot of modern authors will get us so far in a story, but they'll take way longer. So for example, like I said, 73 pages in and they're with the beavers, and I feel like a modern author writing the same story, we'd be like 150, 200 pages in. So much is being explained with so little words, and I'm really enjoying that. I think that a lot of more classic old school authors are better at that. There are quite a few differences with the movie, but not in a bad way. I feel like it's really captured the essence of the book so incredibly well. Oh, also, one of the things that I didn't realize was that the Turkish delight that Edmund eats is actually enchanted, and that's why he was so keen on finding the witch when they came back. I didn't know that, so that explains a little bit more like within the movie. And I also really love the conversation that they had with the professor. I wish they would have been a little more on par with that with the movie. But going back, this is one of my favorite parts so far, and this is when Lucy is with Mr. Tumnus, and this kind of just explains the ambiance. But it says, when Lucy was tired of eating, the fawn began to talk. He had wonderful tales to tell of his life in the forest. He told about the midnight dances and how the nymphs who lived in the wells and the dryads who lived in the trees came out to dance with the fawns, about long hunting parties after the milk-white stag who could give you wishes if you caught him, about feasting and treasure-seeking with the wild red dwarfs in deep mines and caverns far beneath the forest floor, and then about summer when the woods were green and old Silenus, or Silenus, I don't know how to say his name, old Silenus on his fat donkey would come to visit them, and sometimes Bacchus himself, and then the streams would run with wine instead of water, and the whole forest would give itself up to jollification for weeks on end. I love that description. It's so like fantasy-esque, and I find it very interesting that, like, I know, I'm sorry if you're sick of me talking about this subject, but I'm probably never not going to, but I get a lot of negative feedback from other Christians for reading fantasy because a lot believe that it's wrong and demonic and all this stuff, and I find that a lot of them have the exception of Narnia because it is like a Christian story. However, this is something that was not included in the movie, and I feel like if it was, Christians might have a different opinion because so many Christians are okay with fantasy unless it includes folklore creatures like nymphs and dryads and stuff like that. So I actually really love that this was included in here. I don't know, it was really comforting to me to read that C.S. Lewis incorporated other aspects of fantasy aside from just like dwarves and stuff like that. I don't know, I just really loved that part. But again, I love that Mr. Tumnus was sharing more of his life, and again, I wish that was included in the movie as well. As I've just been reading this book, and last night I literally just sat there like with just the biggest smile on my face. I love the writing, I love the story, I love the ambiance, I love it all so much. I also wish it would have included like the part of them being with the beavers and Peter helping get fish and things like that. Just little details I think would have been really sweet. But again, I love that C.S. Lewis is telling so much of the story with so little words, even though it's still including more details. For example, when they're at the beaver's house and it says, Lucy was helping Mrs. Beaver to dish up the trout so that in a very few minutes everyone was drawing up stools. It was all three-legged stools in the beaver's house, except for Mrs. Beaver's own special rocking chair beside the fire, and preparing to enjoy themselves. There was a jug of creamy milk for the children, Mr. Beaver stuck to beer, and a great big lump of deep yellow butter in the middle of the table from which everyone took as much as he wanted to go with his potatoes, and all the children thought, and I agree with them, that there's nothing to beat good freshwater fish if you eat it when it has been alive half an hour ago and has come out of the pan half a minute ago. Like, I feel like there are just so many more descriptive, detailed things in the book, but it hasn't lengthened the story a ton. I hope I'm explaining this well, but yeah, I'm just really loving all the extra little details, and just the whole overall feel of the story is bringing me so much joy, and I love it so much. So I want to fly through this book, but at the same time I don't, because I love it so much. And again, I am very interested in the professor and his character. I know that his story kind of ties back to Narnia, so I'm very curious to read the other books and see how that goes, because I did like the conversation, like I said, that the professor had with Susan and Peter, and I like that he was just kind of like harsh with explaining to them that Lucy is not crazy and that they should consider truth being in her story. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update and basically tell you that I'm in love with the story so much, and I'm sure I will think of other details to share on my next update. Hello. Man, I'm looking crazy. I had super cute space buns in, and then they kind of fell out because I got like a vibration pad today, which I'm super excited about. If you don't know what that is, it's just like a platform that you stand on and it like shakes back and forth and vibrates. It's for lymphatic flow. If you're somebody who has a desk job like I do and you sit like 8 hours a day, I definitely recommend getting one to help your lymphatic flow in your system. But anyway, that is why my hair looks like this. But I did not get too far last night because Steven wanted to just binge Blacklist last night, so that's what we did. But I think I made it like another 10 pages maybe, but I remembered a few things that I forgot to mention the first time and a few new things. So one of the things that I really loved was when it had mentioned Aslan's name for the first time, and I think it was like it gave Susan peace and it gave Lucy joy and it gave Peter like strength, but for Edmund it gave him like terror. And I thought that was such a cool detail to put in, and kind of interesting because I was just listening to Paul Washer the other day, who's my favorite pastor, by the way, I highly recommend. But he was talking about how to the unbeliever, the more they learn about God, the more they hate him, because he is so good and holy that it like points out the evil within us and our nature. And for the believer, we love him more because we see how loving and merciful he is despite our sins. So I just thought that was a really cool detail for him to put in there, and I'm very excited for Edmund's like character arc. The other thing too that I forgot to mention that I wish they would have put in the movie was that this is so random, but that they actually like the beaver's food. So like in the movie, you see Mrs. Beaver put like a fish and chips in front of Susan and she's kind of like, but in the book, they all make dinner together and it's like amazing and everybody loves it and is having a good time. So I really wish that they would have put that in the movie. So far, it's been pretty on par, but at the same time, really different. It's hard to explain. I think that the movie did an incredible job, but I do wish they would have included more specific details, because overall, like the story and the theme is the same. There's just like details that I feel like should have been included that were significant in the story. I love C.S. Lewis's writing in a sense that he is making it clear that he's telling us a story. Like, I love that he'll say something and be like, but I'm sure you're probably wondering about this. And it's like, oh, I love that he's putting it like I'm sitting in front of him and he's telling me a story by the fireplace. Like, I love it. It's reminding me a lot of Once Upon a Wardrobe, like I mentioned, is my favorite book. And in that book, there's somebody, our main character Megs, who's literally like sitting with C.S. Lewis and having him tell her stories of his life. So it's kind of bringing me to that story at the same time, and I'm loving it. Then the last thing that I wanted to mention before I actually read today, it's already almost 3 o'clock and I haven't sat down and read because today was one of those days where I woke up and I'm like, I need to clean my whole house. So that's what I did. But I'm excited to actually sit down and read after this. But so the last detail that I was like, whoa, was that Jadis, the White Witch, is said to be a descendant of Lilith. And Lilith is a mythology creature in, I think, ancient Judaism. This is totally like theoretical. This is not fact. It's basically just, like I said, mythology fiction, that Adam, the first man, had a wife named Lilith. But Lilith was unfaithful to Adam. She refused to like submit to him as a wife, and she was unfaithful and she ended up sleeping with Satan, and that they had descendants which created like the succubus and things like that, like created demons basically. So that was like a crazy detail that I had no idea was in Narnia. Like, it kind of blew my mind for a second because when I read it, I was like, is he talking about what I think he's talking about? And sure enough, yeah, that is the mythological creature who is like a descendant of Satan basically. Like, that is crazy. So it's not even just like a little bit allegorical, like the story. It's literally like he just straight up said that the White Witch is a descendant of Satan. That's crazy. Like I said, I just want to like clarify that that really is like mythology. That's not like a real story. That whole concept is mythological. But I found it fascinating that he put it in this story to make a point. And I think that is going along with the whole concept of Christian liberty, because like I said 1.5 billion times, some Christians will get really mad that you even pay attention to stories like that because they believe that they're evil, which like if they were real, yeah, but like I feel like we can read stories like that and appreciate the lessons and perspectives and things like that. So anyway, but on that subject, like I said, I'm gonna start reading this in just a minute, but I did want to tell you guys that I finished this like a week or two ago, Knowing the Spirit by Costi Hinn. This is so good. So good. I highly recommend it if you want to know more about the Holy Spirit and just the Trinity in general. Oh, this is so good. So again, I know I've mentioned this plenty of times in my past videos, but if you're new here, hello, surprise. So I have had kind of a crazy background. My family was Christian growing up, but like we didn't really like go to church or read Bibles or pray or anything like that. We were kind of just like Christian by name, but didn't really practice, you know? And then later on in life, I got into like witchcraft and I got into New Age and New Thought, mysticism. And then when I got reintroduced to Christianity, I was part of like the hyper charismatic stuff, like crazy stuff that is, to be frank, not biblical. So when I kind of got out of that a couple years ago, I started to listen to a lot of pastors and teachers that were also part of that, and Costi Hinn is one of them. So his uncle is Benny Hinn, who is like a world famous like faith healer, like prosperity gospel kind of guy, false teacher to be forward. Costi, like I said, has gotten out of that, and he has been very adamant about teaching the biblical truth and using scripture to kind of like invalidate a lot of those practices. So this has been incredibly helpful to me. Like I said, I finished it a week or two ago, but there are so many underlines and highlights in this book I can't even begin to tell you, but he brings everything back to scripture. He talks about who the Holy Spirit is, why he's so important in the Trinity, spiritual gifts, and my personal favorite, which is why I'm bringing this up, is Christian liberty and convictions. He talks a lot about how there are personal convictions that we will have and we cannot judge other people by our own convictions. And obviously that is a very hot topic on my channel because as a Christian, I love reading fantasy books and watching fantasy movies, and I even have a few books that talk about folklore and things like that. And I've had people come at me. But again, I think that falls under Christian liberty and personal convictions because I believe that we can read stories like that and not take it on as our religion and still learn moral lessons, and even in some cases see like biblical lessons out of them, like Narnia or Lord of the Rings. Like those are not biblical stories, but they still have biblical lessons within them. And the same with any other fantasy story. Well, I shouldn't say any fantasy story, but a lot of them, you know? So I feel like it just confirmed a lot for me, and I really love that part. And I think that Christian liberty is a very hot topic within the Christian community because so many people have strong convictions about certain things, and because they do, they feel like everybody else should have those same convictions. But I digress. I'm not gonna go further on about it because I am blabby today. But again, if you are a Christian, or even if you're not, you just want to know more about Christianity, highly recommend this book. Learned so much, it answers so many questions, and I will probably reread it for sure in the future sometime. And then last thing before I actually move on and read is I got a thick book today. I did not realize that this was 6 books in one. I thought I was getting like 1 book, but I got Spurgeon on Prayer and Spiritual Warfare. If you don't know who Charles Spurgeon is, he is one of, if not the most amazing pastor like ever. He's incredible. He's known as the Prince of Pastors, one of the greatest teachers since Jesus. Like, amazing. Every time I read any of his works or his quotes, I'm like shocked. He preached his first sermon when he was like 16, was a full-time pastor by the time he was 18, has published like thousands of sermons. He died in like the late 1800s, so he's very old school, and I love him so much. Highly recommend looking up his stuff. He's got a devotional that you can get. So this is 6 books in one. It is The Power in Prayer, Praying Successfully, The Golden Key of Prayer, Finding Peace in Life's Storms, Spurgeon on Praise, and Satan, a Defeated Foe. I'm obviously not going to finish this whole thing anytime soon. I usually take my time when going through spiritual nonfiction books because I tend to overwhelm myself because of what I've come out of and things like that. I can spiral really easily, so I'm going to take my time with this one. I did fly through this one pretty quickly though, but I think that's partially because it was answering so many questions that I had, or like covered experiences that I had. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that because I just got it in the mail along with like that vibration pad thingy that I was talking about. I'm really excited to dig into this. Like I said, Charles Spurgeon, amazing. It's almost 3 o'clock, so I'm going to sit and read and chill for a little bit, and then the next time I talk to you guys, I will either be done or almost done. Hello again. It has not been that long. Hang on, let me stop my music so I don't get copyrighted. So it is 4:45, almost 5. I've been a little distracted, but I have made a little bit of an end. So I'm on page 125, and I just had to hop in and tell you that I've been like tearing up when they first meet Aslan. I'm gonna start crying again. I don't know why I'm crying about this. Like, I do, but I also don't, because oh, but this sentence, it just makes me think of when we come face to face with Jesus, with God at the end of our lives. I'm sorry if you can hear Oakley chewing on his toy. Like, literally the second I hit record, he started chewing on this thing. But oh my gosh. So it says, for when they tried to look at Aslan's face, they just caught a glimpse of the golden mane and the great royal solemn overwhelming eyes. And then they found they couldn't look at him and went all trembly. And then the next part, when they actually like go up to Aslan and start talking to him, and they're like all nervous. And I love that Peter kind of took accountability, talking about how it's like partially his fault that Edmund went with White Witch. And it talks about how Aslan just like got really quiet. Up to that moment, Lucy had been thinking how royal and strong and peaceful his face looked. Now it suddenly came into her head that he looked sad as well. And it just has me thinking, like, about how good God is. Like, he loves us so much, and it makes me all emotional that he loves us so much that it breaks his heart when we deny him, or when we, you know, sin and stuff like that. And I don't know, I guess it's just convicting for me as like, am I showing grace to unbelievers? Am I showing mercy and love to unbelievers? Because I look at them and I might be mad about something they do or say against God. And while I believe that God, you know, is angered by sin and evil as well, it also more so breaks his heart, and he's sad and he mourns over people because we were created to be with him and to love him and to be loved. And how heartbreaking it must be for him to see us in this world sin against him and against each other. He's just so good, you know? I was not intending to get like this as I'm talking about it, but like, oh, like I said, I was just reading this part and all of a sudden my eyes just like filled with tears, and I was like, oh my gosh. And again, C.S. Lewis, he writes so simply, but it's so deep and penetrating to the soul, and I don't know how he does it, but it's just so good. Oh, I love this book so much. I guess that's just my thought process right now. And there's a booktuber that I've followed for years, and we are like complete opposites in every way. Like complete opposite religious views, complete opposite moral views, complete opposite political views, like everything, right? But I've still always watched her videos and stuff because I just really enjoy like her content and her style, and I pray for her a lot. And she recently read Narnia for the first time and she loved it. Like, she was super passionate about it, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, girl, like, this is about how much God loves you. And oh, it just breaks my heart because I'm like, I want her to come to Jesus so badly, you know? And it's just, oh my gosh. So yeah, God is just so good. And if you have not submitted your life to the Lord, please do, because it is so worth it and he loves you so much. And I'm just sitting here getting all up in my feels about it. I love this book so much. Anyway, I just wanted to give that update. I'm sure the next time I see you, I'll actually be done with it. Next day, and I did finish Narnia last night, and it was beautiful. I think I cried for like the last third of the book. So the way that I put it in my Fable review, I was like, I smiled like crazy the first 2/3 of the book, and then the last third I just cried. I just cried like the whole time. This is just such a beautiful story, and like I said, I love that fantasy can so beautifully and deeply tell faith stories just so perfectly. I love it so much. I can't wait to read the rest of the books. I think this one is definitely gonna be my favorite out of all of them, especially because of the nostalgia piece from the movie, but I just loved it. So I do want to read one part that kind of broke me. It is when Lucy and Susan are walking with Aslan to the stone table. I am sad and lonely. Lay your hands on my mane so that I can feel you are there, and let us walk like that. Like, that is just so beautiful. And again, it just makes like Jesus and his emotions so real, because I think there are a lot of like sects of Christianity that talk about like ignoring your emotions or not having feelings. Don't ever be sad, don't ever be angry, don't ever whatever. And moments like this just reminds me that Jesus also cried. He also had emotions. Not only did he cry when Lazarus died, but he also wept the night before his crucifixion and was asking God to take the cup from him. Like, he was also so anxious that he literally sweat blood. He felt emotions too, and it's just, it's such a beautiful reminder. But I love so much that C.S. Lewis made Aslan like that. He didn't just create him as like a no emotions, no fear kind of a character. He felt, and I love this book so much. In regards to the movie, there are quite a few things in here that I'm really sad were not included. For example, our friendly giant, what's his name? Giant Rumblebuffin. That's so cute. I'm kind of sad that he wasn't in the movie. And then also the part of Aslan and everybody being in the witch's castle, like unfreezing everybody from stone. I mean, I don't think it would have been necessary to have in the movie, but it would have been nice to see all the other creatures and everything like that be kind of unfrozen. And then I'm glad that in the movie we got more of the battle scene, because in the book we don't really get to it until like the end of the battle, basically, like when Aslan shows up and kills the witch. Whereas in the movie we get to see it start, we get to see the most epic battle scene when they crash into each other and all of that. So I'm really glad that we got to do that. The other thing that I didn't realize wasn't a line from the book was when the witch is talking to Aslan and Aslan kind of barks back, "Don't cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written." And that's like the most iconic Narnia line ever, and it's not in here. In fact, it's the opposite. Aslan literally tells the witch, like, tell me what the deep magic is then. Like, he tells her to do that. So that was interesting, but I actually really like that change. I like that almost feels like blasphemous to say, but I really did like that line in the movie. 10 out of 5 stars. I loved it with my whole heart, and I read it so quickly. And again, it's not like a really long book. It's only 186 pages. I love that it was such a quick read, but again, like I said, so much was said with so little amount of words, and it's just so beautiful in every way. And the story has my heart, and I can't wait to get to heaven and talk to C.S. Lewis and know about what other stories he has, because this is just, I need more, you know? I don't really think there was much of anything that I didn't like. I mean, maybe at the very end when the children are all adults and they talk very like fantasy-esque. Like, "My royal brother speaks rightly, and it seems to me we should be shamed if for any fearing or foreboding we turned back from the following so noble a beast as now we have in chase." I feel like that was kind of odd, not just for reading myself, but also because nobody else in Narnia talked like that. And then all of a sudden at the end it was like, well, because they've been in Narnia so long, this is how they talk now. And it's like, but nobody else really talked like that in the story, so it's kind of odd. But regardless, I mean, I still loved it. I'm not really mad about anything. Like I said, the movie was pretty on par for the most part, and any changes that the movie made I did really like. There were just parts that I wish they would have included, but otherwise, love this book so much. And and the funny thing is that I started my new book last night, which took me a while because, like I said, I was crying, and thank God Stephen was asleep on the couch next to me. Funny enough, within the first chapter it mentions Narnia. So I started A Seaside Wonder by Melissa Tagg, which is part of the Muir Harbor series, which I read the first one in fall. You've probably heard me talk about it. Autumn by the Sea. Love it. 5 out of 5. Definitely recommend. Within the first chapter, literally, it starts with some guy like hiding in a wardrobe to like hide from this girl, and she opens it and she goes, "You looking for Narnia or something?" Like, what are the chances that the first chapter, page 10, talks about Narnia? And so I had to write next to it like, literally just finished Narnia today. Like, how amazing is that? And then towards the end of that chapter, he asks her what her favorite book in the series is. She said that her favorite is The Magician's Nephew. So I'm really excited to read The Magician's Nephew at some point so that I can not only know what this character's favorite book is all about, but just because I love the series in general so much. With all that said, that is my Narnia reading vlog. I loved it so much, obviously. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you made it to the end, leave a little lion emoji in the comments. I always love to know who sticks to the end, and let me know if you've read Narnia, if you loved it, what book is your favorite out of the series. And thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!